Please welcome Joe Chythlock, Chair of the Bristol Bay Native Corporation Board of Directors.
Tamai we Joe Chythlock, at Bristol Bay Native Corporation on Portland. Iluk sit country jelly, Nasameakan Bristol Bay Kautain, Angneut Klimski. Umioch sit country Bristol Bay Nakain, Jali Nunamta Kiniksteini. Kuana illautusiun noomuk, tangwagilusiisu knilranik. Bijaskin nachtusiisu, Bristol Bay Meutarnik, Nuknik. Hello everyone, I'm Joe Chythlock, Chairman of Bristol Bay Native Corporation. I want to welcome you to our annual Bristol Bay Wild Salmon celebration. We appreciate all of you who love Bristol Bay, salmon, and our beautiful region of Alaska. Thank you for joining us for today's live cooking show. We hope you enjoy your meal of wild Bristol Bay salmon.
Please welcome Jason Matrokin, President and CEO of Bristol Bay Native Corporation.
Hello again, I'm Jason Matrokin, President and CEO of Bristol Bay Native Corporation. Thanks for joining BB&C for the 2020 Bristol Bay Wild Salmon Celebration. Like I've mentioned before, this celebration looks different from our past wild salmon events, but we're excited for you to be a part of the truly unique virtual events we have planned for you this week. Today, we are honored to partner with Chef Tom Douglas to bring you an exclusive cooking demonstration featuring delicious Bristol Bay wild salmon. We hope you brought your appetite because his recipes are not to be missed. We are also honored to start this cooking session with the presentation of our annual Fish First Award. This year's awards are presented to longtime champions of Bristol Bay and prominent forces in the culinary world: Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen, headed by Chef Tom Douglas, and Chef Tom Colicchio, chef and owner of Crafted Hospitality and star of television show Top Chef. Our awards presenter, Everett Anderson, shareholder and Senior Vice President with Bristol Bay Seafood Investments, will speak more about these special awards and this year's awardees. We're also excited to welcome some special guests throughout today's program. Thank you for joining along virtually, and we hope you enjoy this gourmet meal brought to you straight from Bristol Bay, Alaska.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Everett Anderson, Senior Vice President of Bristol Bay Seafood Investments and proudly born and raised in Bristol Bay. Thank you for joining us this week for the 2020 virtual Bristol Bay Wild Salmon Celebration. We are sad we cannot convene in person this year, but are excited that you have taken the time to celebrate Bristol Bay in this virtual space. Today, you're going to be able to participate in an exciting cooking demonstration by renowned Chef Tom Douglas, who will be cooking up a delicious meal of Bristol Bay wild salmon. But first, it's my honor to present the 2020 Fish First Awards to two special Bristol Bay advocates. The Fish First Awards are given to individuals who have championed the cause to protect Bristol Bay from threats to our fishery and who have dedicated their time, energy, and platforms to celebrate and educate the broader public about what makes Bristol Bay so special. Our first Fish First awardee is a big part of today's Bristol Bay sockeye cooking demonstration, the Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen team, which is headed by renowned Chef Tom Douglas. Welcome, Chef Douglas.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, we're super happy to have you here. So, Chef Tom Douglas, you've been cooking up Pacific Northwest cuisine since 1984. You and your team at Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen run restaurants, event spaces, a cooking school, the Hot Stove Society, where I believe that's where you're filming today, as well as producing a cooking product online. Even with all of these competing demands and the new world we are living in under the pandemic, you and your team have taken time to be loud and active voices in support of Bristol Bay, Alaska, and against the Pebble Mine. This Fish First Award is in honor of your work to bring attention to Bristol Bay salmon and your tireless support in the fight against the Pebble Mine. We are presenting the Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen team with the Fish First Award, pictured here. This award was made by a Biomore, a Yupik artist from Aleknagik, Alaska, and a true warrior for Bristol Bay. The fish is a wooden carving featuring imagery from our beloved Bristol Bay, and we're grateful to Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen for your advocacy and partnership as we forge ahead to keep the Bristol Bay fishery strong for future generations. Chef Douglas, I'll pass it to you.
Well, that's very sweet. I mean, what a lovely award. It's not why we do things, of course, but it's a celebration of its own, of trying to be a human. You know, this Bristol Bay problem is really a human problem. It's the salmon fishery on its own has taken care of itself for thousands and thousands, maybe millions of years. It's the human problem that is making this an event that we have to talk about, and we have to try and mitigate the damage. So I would say that when you say this goes to the Tom Douglas Seattle Kitchen team, it really is. I mean, just this morning, I got an email across my desk with our in-house group that is going and working on salmon mitigation in rivers right here in Washington State. So they've been doing that for years. Our Rub with Love product line donates a portion of our proceeds from our salmon rub to Salmon Cause, the Alaska Wild Salmon Fund. We live it every day, and we are proud to be a recipient of this award.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. We now present our second and final 2020 Fish First Award to Chef Tom Colicchio. Welcome, and thank you for being here today. Chef Colicchio, you've been in the culinary world since the 1980s. You are the founder of Crafted Hospitality. You are a longtime host of the hit TV show Top Chef. You own restaurants, produced and star in TV shows and films, and you still find time to be actively giving back through your advocacy and philanthropic ventures. You're known as the citizen chef, and you have been advocating for a food system that provides access, affordability, and nutrition. With all that you have going on your plate, you find time to also be a champion for Bristol Bay and the wild salmon we hold so dear. Today, we are thanking you with the Fish First Award shown on the screen. We wish we could give this to you in person as well, but you'll be receiving it shortly in the mail. It is a handcrafted wooden fish with Bristol Bay detailing made by Bristol Bay's own artist, Biomore. And I'll hand it over to you, Chef Colicchio.
Thank you, Everett. First off, it's just an honor, especially to receive this award with Tom Douglas, who's been a hero of mine when it comes to conservation around fisheries for a long time, and a lot of the work that he's done. And I have to say, Tom, I'm just a little south of you in Portland, and the air hangs heavy with smoke right now, and it just reminds me that with the climate changing as aggressively as it is, we are going to start losing more and more of our wild places, and I believe that's what's is so important. So yeah, I'm here as a chef who cares about our food supply, but I'm here as a conservationist. I'm here as an outdoorsman, someone who loves to fish, and whether we're protecting our planet from oceans heating up, and whether we're protecting bluefin tuna in the North Atlantic, swordfish in the South Atlantic, Patagonia toothfish in the Southern Hemisphere, and salmon in Alaska. It's really important that these wild places stay wild. There's so little of it left in this world, and I want to leave the planet in decent shape for my children, my three children, who will then pass the inheritance of our planet down to their children. And so it's so important that we understand the connection between our wild places and our food sources. And I think Bristol Bay best exemplifies this. And this is why it's so important to stop this mine, because first we need to take care of our planet. We need to take care of Bristol Bay, because this wild food source for us. So I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here. And I have to say, so many people are on our side on this. You know, when I on Instagram posted a sticker of the Pebble Mine on my Jeep, a tremendous amount of people chimed in. So we're not alone out here. Everyone's behind us, and we have to preserve this wild place. So I'm just an honor and happy to be here.
Well, it is with profound thanks that we present you both the Fish First Awards, Chef Tom Douglas, Seattle Kitchen, and Chef Tom Colicchio, and appreciate your words, both of you as well, and your voices and platform, and working and supporting us in this effort. We certainly appreciate you both, and we'll now turn this show over to you to kick off the introduction of Chef Douglas's exciting cooking demo featuring Bristol Bay wild salmon. Thank you for being a part of Bristol Bay Wild Salmon Week. And here we go, Chef Colicchio. It's the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Tom. I wish I could be up there cooking with you. You know, I was thinking about making the drive, but I had some work to do down here today, so I couldn't be there in person. What are you making?
I'm making a Bristol Bay wild sockeye salmon, and it's going to be awesome because it's a couple of my favorite things to do with fish. One is I love steaming fish. It's just something that a lot of folks don't do. And so I got used to using my little Chinese bamboo steamer many, many moons ago. And I love the vanillins and all the little attributes that the steam brings to the fish. And one of the things compared to any other way to cook fish, whether it's on a grill, in a pan, on a barbecue grill, the steam is the most natural, pure way to cook it, right? Nothing else gets in the way of the fish. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. And then I happen to make a lot of salmon rub. I saw a lot of salmon rub all over the country and all over the world. And I love my little salmon sliders. So I'm going to show you how to make a quick little salmon sandwich. There's no excuses not to use the fish. And by the way, as you know, there's no excuses not to buy wild salmon when you go to the marketplace. We have apps now that will tell you when you're going like, I don't remember what they said on Top Chef, what kind of fish I'm supposed to buy. And BS is what I say. Get out your app, go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium Stewardship Council app and look and see what you're supposed to be buying and look and see what's being managed successfully around the world and be part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
All right. I'm so glad that you mentioned the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They do such a great job with conservation, and they really lean on a lot of chefs to do that work and to really educate the public. You know, Tom, what's the big difference between farm-raised and wild fish, in your opinion?
Well, there's a couple of things for me. I would say the biggest thing, and it might not be what you would think of first, is that farm-raised fish devalues the wild fish. So it makes it less special in a way, because when you take and you make a wild fish at $3.99 a pound instead of what maybe it should be more like beef tenderloin at $20 a pound, you're taking of all the money that goes to the locals, to the fishermen, to the factories, everything that handles that fish. You're taking that money out of their pocket. And next thing you know, they're landing not Copper River, but Bristol Bay sockeye at 10 cents a pound instead of 40 or 50 cents a pound. So you devalue the fish. Secondly, it takes more fish to make farm salmon than the fish you get back out.
Right.
Thirdly, especially when it's open net, is a problem.
Let's go back and tease it out a little bit, because that's so important. So what you're saying is the forage fish that they have to deplete the oceans of, these small forage fish that they actually take and turn into fish meal that then the farm salmon eat. And you're saying that the conversion is below 1-to-1, meaning that
exactly.
Yeah.
Not the only way they get up to the right count is when they add the food coloring, the pounds of food coloring they add to the feed, so that the salmon look naturally red, right? So that's really that's a big issue. So then you have the open pit farming, which is happening here in the Sound. We just had huge issues with that over the last couple of years, where the open net have collapsed, and then the farm stock gets mixed in with the wild stock and weakens the breed lines of these fish. Not good. And then you have the feces problem, right? Where they make these huge, intense little areas, and the feces drops, and next thing you know, sea lice and disease and everything is spread to our wild population. So there's all sorts of reasons to use wild fish over farm fish. That's just probably a few of them.
Right. Okay, I'll let you get on and cook. I want to see what you're...
Well, I hope you're not going to be as judgmental about what I do as you are with those poor young cooks who have to cook for you every week on Top Chef. That would be terrible. I will say, Tom, for years, been a big fan of yours. Revelations, when I first went to Gramercy Tavern, when you were the chef there, revelations on what food could be and how tremendously intricate it could be, and the depth of flavor, and then followed your career as you have grown through craft and witchcraft and all of the different operations that you've done. So I'm a big fan, as you know, and it's been an honor to be friends over all these years. So I'm just going to take this wild Bristol Bay sockeye. And the other thing, Tom, that we should mention is that some people they don't buy something because it's been previously frozen, right? And that is just such a BS excuse, right? If it's handled properly, when it gets onto the fishing boat and handled properly, oftentimes a frozen fish that's frozen within an hour or two of being caught is better than a live fish that has been flown all the way to the East Coast and put into a marketplace somewhere, as you know, right? So
right.
What are you going to say?
Yeah, that's the secret. Can you hear me? Yeah, my mic's gone. Okay, yeah. That's what most people don't understand. When you go to a Japanese sushi bar, especially in the States, most of that fish is frozen, especially the stuff that's not local. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And frozen for a long time at very cold temperatures. You know, there's a law being proposed here in Seattle. You know, we'd like to follow the Omaha, Nebraska rules about fish. So that's what the law is being right now, is where you can't even serve fresh fish anymore, that it has to be frozen for 4 to 10 days at -4 degrees, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, it's important to be careful with it, but also not to get crazy. The fact that we're following Omaha fish laws makes me a little twisted.
Well, yeah.
So a couple of things about this fish. These sockeyes generally 3 to 5 pounds. The Alaskans often call them the red salmon because they're of their color. The bears love them. The bears love all kinds of salmon. I'm going to just, this is head off and gutted. I'm just going to take this little fin off here. And when you're filleting your own fish, I mean, probably most of the people that are watching this already have these rules set, but I like to make sure my knife is at least the width of the fish, right? And then this is what I call the chef treat. And Tom, maybe I'm sure you've probably had these before, but this is the collar of the fish.
Of course. And
oftentimes it's not, it's too bony and all that sort of thing to really put on the plate unless you're making a dish around it. But that collar is what I call the chef treat. So this is my little nugget. This little piece under here is like the best thing in the world. If you've had hamachi kama at a sushi bar or something like that, you'll know that that is all fat and all deliciousness. So that's something to look forward to in a few. The other thing, when we talked about farm fish versus wild fish, is that you got to remember that a farm fish lives in a pen this size, right? It's like moving around, it's barely moving. So it's a big, flabby, force-fed. It's like swimming foie gras. It is what it is, right? It's just a big pile of fat, kind of like me a little bit. But this wild fish swims for miles and miles and years in the ocean, and it has a texture to it that is totally different than a farm-raised fish. And that's what I love, is the little bit of bite. So I'm going to go in here, and I don't know if you're going to hang out for this whole demo or not. You're going to make me nervous if you're hanging out here.
I'm gonna sign off in a few seconds, and I mean, this is great to watch. I mean, you're like the master of salmon, so I'd love to stick around. But unfortunately, I've got to jump. But listen, it's great seeing you. I know also I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I know we're all sort of struggling right now with restaurants, and we're trying to get by, and my best to you and your staff and all your teams there. I know you have a lot of restaurants that closed, and we're gonna get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel for my teams and 40-year employees. I don't know how long yours were around, but I had to lose several 40-year employees, lots of 30s and lots of 25s. And so, yeah, it's been devastating from that perspective. On the other hand, we're survivors. We're going to make this work, and we're doing everything we can do, including dinner boxes every week. I mean, we're just doing it. I'm sure you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we're trying. I think, what we're really hoping for is that our Congress passes the Restaurants Act. That will be a lifeline to so many of us, because if restaurants close at the rate that they say they're going to close, and some people put it between 60 and 80% in this country, that is going to hurt everybody up there that fishes for wild fish, because those restaurants that use that wild fish, especially that salmon from Bristol Bay, we're not going to be here. And so I don't imagine
they're going to start serving it at McDonald's. So they should really.
So. But that's what we're in danger of. We're in danger of only having fast food restaurants. If 80% of independent restaurants close, it's going to be very different. And you think about all those farmers and cheesemakers and fishermen that supply independent restaurants. That's what's at stake. It's not just the restaurants. So anyway, hang in there, Tom. Great seeing you, and that looks delicious already. And also just an absolute pleasure to receive this award alongside of you. Thank you.
Here's to you, bud. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for being a voice for us out there. Tom has done so much for the restaurant business as a voice, and should not forget that one bit. So here I've got my 2 salmon. Now you can see why they call it the red salmon. Look at how beautiful that is. So I've taken the spine out, and I'm just going to finish up my trim a little bit. One of the things that especially young chefs is they tend to want to just kind of take some shortcuts, and I love just working the fish. And the whole goal when you're cutting up a fish is to really not waste anything, right? And of course, when you're on one of those factory trawlers, they get a little bit more aggressive with their trim. But when you're trimming at home, there's no reason not to kind of go for it and just kind of make sure that you get every bit of meat as you can. And there's things to remember. One is on a salmon, or like a tuna, like any sort of fish, this is the most prized part right here, the belly side of the fish. So because I have this little bit of white on here, this doesn't mean I just want to cut that right there and cut that off. I'm just going to take the bit that has the fin in it and just the very edge of cartilage there, and work it from there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is look for my pin bones. And in order to do that, I just run my finger right across the fillet, and you can see I can kind of raise the pin bones. Can you see that on camera a little bit if I get my hand out of there? This little line right there. If you can't see it, you can feel it. And I've got my little tweezers, and these are specifically for this project. And basically, I'm going to take my pin bones out. And one of the ways, there's lots of ways to tell if a fish is fresh or not, right? And that's one of the things that you want to do when you're buying the fish. It's too late when you get it home, but when you're buying the fish, you want to make sure that the fish is fresh. And so smell is one. If it's got the head on, you can tell. If it's got, if it's got how hard it is to get these pin bones out is really a sign of how fresh the fish is. The easier they come out, the older the fish is. And so that's just a couple of ways to tell. And the real challenge is to make sure that you don't beat up the fish too much in getting the pin bones out, which I'm doing a really good job right now of beating up this poor little fish. Okay. I'm going to have to leave the rest of those in there. So I've got that. I don't need to do both of those. There's really not a lot of good reason to skin the fish, but if that's your preference, I just simply take my knife to a point at an angle, and I'm just going to go along at that angle. I'm going to grab the fish here with my towel and just keep working my knife back and forth. When I did Iron Chef on TV with Matsuharu Morimoto, one of the things I did with the ingredient was wild king salmon. And one of the things I did was I took this skin off on one of the fish, and I sprinkled it with furikake, which is a Japanese seasoning of seaweed and sesame and a little chili pepper and stuff, and then baked it in between 2 sheet pans, like 2 cookie sheet pans, and some parchment paper. And what you end up with is a salmon crackling, and that's just a lovely thing to do with the skin on the side as a garnish for the fish itself. One other thing I wanted to say, it's important that if you're going to take an animal, like we took this salmon, that we use it, right? So one of the things that, if you'll notice, if you ever had like a spicy tuna roll or salmon roll in a sushi bar, one of the ways they can do that, or a salmon burger even, is by scraping the fish skeleton with a spoon. And you end up with this meat here. So when you talk about the economies of a fish, this is one of the ways that I make an expensive product go further. I'll take that now. I could sell a sushi roll with that. I could do a couple of these and make a salmon burger. Next thing you know, I'm selling a salmon burger for $17, $18, wild fish. And I can do that with the stuff that normally a lot of people would just toss into the compost bin. So That is one thing to remember when you're doing fish. Think about all the ways you can use all of the fish. Okay, I'm going to make some salmon sliders. This is something else. If you're not used to buying whole fish, when you go to the grocery store, you'll see a whole fillet like this in the counter. You'll probably see 4 or 5 of them. It's kind of stacked up. And then when you say to the fishmonger there, you say, okay, I want 2 8-ounce pieces of fish or 6-ounce pieces of fish for my dinner tonight. What's the fishmonger going to do first? If they know that you don't know what to buy first, right? So the first thing your fishmonger is going to do is going to say, okay, about this size, and where am I? Where am I? I'm right here on the tail of the fish, and that's where they're going to start with you, right? In the world of things, as I said, the belly is the fat part. It's kind of the most prized part. Same thing with this part of the fish. When you're ordering a fillet, you want from the collar this way, and then the last thing you want is the tail of a wild fish, because that's done all the work, right? That's been doing this for years, and it's the leanest, firmest, stringiest part of the fish, especially on a smaller fish. And so I always try to ask from the collar down. So there's my 2 8-ounce pieces, and I left the tail for someone who doesn't know better. So just a little trick. It's one of the things we do at the hot stove here is we try to give you little ways to be a better shopper, better cook, be a much better cook than your neighbor. That's really most important. Okay, so I'm going to make a nice little chunk of fish here for my steam, and then I'm going to make some salmon sliders for my slider buns. All right. So 2 things to think about here. Sometimes people get a little worried about their fish, right? When you look at this, you can see that this side is about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick. This side is about 1/8 of an inch thick. Now, because I took the skin off, if I was grilling this piece of fish, or even here in the steam, I'm just going to fold this under. So now what do I have? I have the same size fish all the way across, and they're going to cook in about the same amount of time. So I've just taken that whole problem out of my world. And then I've got my sliders, and I'm going to get rid of this funky board here. All right. We're going to take a little bit of butter. And as you can see in my steam, I'm going to use a bowl because I want to catch all my juices, right? So I've got a little bit of small touch of sesame oil, a small touch of soy sauce, some white wine or sake. We're in the Northwest here, so we have a great selection of white wine. So that's what I'll use, some Washington Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. Then I'm going to take it, and guys, can you see inside my wok here? A little bit. There we go. So in here I have ginger, I have oranges, lemongrass, and some star anise pods. That's my aromatic steam. That's what's going to infuse my fish as it's steaming. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this into here, put that on, and let that steam away while I'm making the rest here. I'm just going to move that over. All right. With the salmon steam, I'm going to make some ginger fried rice. And I call it ginger butter rice because instead of using like a neutral vegetable oil, which brings nothing to the party, it's neutral. It's kind of like drinking vodka. I'm not a vodka fan. It's neutral spirit. I want something with some flavor like gin. One of the great things about being an older chef now is that I don't mind sharing my opinions. And so basically you can see I'm just starting to get my ginger. I took that skin off with a spoon, right? That's an easy way to get the skin off without losing a bunch. It goes right around the little knobs on the ginger. All right. And then I just add my butter to that. And go ahead, use a bunch. Go ahead. And then I've just steamed some sticky rice. So get that going in there. And basically what we're going to make at the end of the day is a salmon bowl with our steamed fish, some pickled cucumbers, and some ginger butter rice. So as that's all sitting there, I'm going to go ahead and do my salmon sliders. Two things you have to think about here. One is I want to get my buns, my slider buns toasted. There we go. And as I said earlier, I sell a lot of salmon rub all over the country. So that's this one right here. When you buy this rub, a portion of the proceeds goes to the Wild Salmon Fund up in Alaska. So we're very proud of that. As I told Tom, my whole team gets involved. It's even without my instigation, but they just love the fish and they work on salmon habitat down here. And when we talk about why we need to save Bristol Bay and why it's a human problem, it's not just an Alaska problem. It's a problem for somebody in Miami or New York City. It's a problem for me here in Seattle, is we've screwed up everything down here. We have screwed up every river down here. Every wild salmon system, as far as commercial fishing goes, is in a struggle or worse. And so we have this opportunity to save Bristol Bay, and we just got to take it. We just got to jump in there and be part of the solution. And so our team here is still working on creating more natural habitat for salmon in our rivers and working on this Alaska issue up there. So I can hear my ginger fried rice going. I'm going to take some of my salmon rub, just sprinkle that on. And basically, you just got to get this hot. Here's some little brioche slider buns. Just going to go right into melted butter with those. And these are going to brown pretty quickly. I want to turn my heat down just a little bit on that. Mix my ginger into my rice while it's frying. All right, as soon as we get some heat on, I'm going to show you what my trick to doing a quick pan-fried piece of fish is. So that is, you take your rub side, and I want to put it down here. Now, this rub has a little bit of brown sugar in it and some smoked paprika, and it browns very quickly. And the darker that sugar gets, the more bitter it's going to be. So I'm looking for a golden brown, not a dark brown on this. So my other little trick is I have a favorite restaurant in San Francisco called the Tadish Grill. And they make a lovely little tartar sauce. I get it on the grilled petrale sole down there. And basically, I think they just did it as a way to use up their day-old baked potatoes. And so now I make potato tartar all the time. And I'm just going to break up the potato a little bit. You don't need much. But the key is that you put in approximately... If this, let's just say this is a half a cup of mayonnaise, and then you put in all your ingredients for your tartar sauce. I tell you not to over brown it, and then, oh, good, it's perfect. You can see the color of that, right? That is lovely. Now, look what I did. These sockeyes, I mean, yeah, these sockeyes are thin pieces of fish, but now you can see my burner's off. I'm going to let the residual heat of the pan finish warming that salmon through. That is key. Now, I don't mind these this brown. You could make them a little lighter if you wanted, but I don't mind them that way at all. So I'm going to take my potato And I'm going to add some chopped potato to my tartar sauce. At the same time, you want to add about the same amount of potato. You want to add that amount of sour cream, which I've already mixed in, to my tartar sauce. And that's your basis for your potato tartar. Excuse me? Yeah, it's baked potato, stale baked potato. All right. So we want our salmon about medium rare. I'm going to take some of my tartar. I'm going to take a piece of my salmon. And I'm going to build my slider. And then I like to just put a little green. This is arugula. Any sort of a little green on top would be good. And then your bun. Oop, wrong side. And basically, we're going to do that 3 times. Be generous with the tartar sauce. It's just a small batch. A little arugula. And then your bun on top there. And if you really want to go crazy, put some tartar on both sides. They're small. It's okay. All right. So there's our quick little salmon sliders. And I just think what's key on this, just serve them a little bit warm. Enjoy. We'll go from there. All right, now we're going to take our ginger fried rice. And I want to get a little bit of a crust on this. We're just going to have to see if I got there or not. Yeah, exactly. So see how lovely that is? There's your ginger. It's all kind of crisp and crusty on your salmon cake. I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to pop that onto my plate. I'm going to take this and add some of my pickled cucumbers. And these are just cucumbers just chopped, 3 parts vinegar to 1 part sweetness. So I use 3. This is probably 3/4 of a cup of vinegar to maybe 1/4 of a cup of honey. The sweetness that you use is up to you. Whatever fresh herbs you have around. This looks like dill. And then I'm going to take my steamed fish, put that right on top. And this is the key here. You can see all the sauce. Can you guys get an overhead of that sauce? You can see all this juice here. That's the butter, sesame oil, soy sauce, and the juices from the fish. That is quite delicious. And I want to pour that over most of the rice, but I don't want to pour it directly over because I like that crispiness of the rice topping there. And then my favorite quick little Chinese condiment is the Laogan Ma spicy crispy chili. And it's got some black beans, it's got some crispy soybeans, some fried chilies, and it's done in oil. And I just think that's a delicious finish to something like this. All right, there's where we're going to get started. Now let's finish with an apple tart. We good with that? Is everyone staying with me? All right, we'll set those down here. Time for a little sip of wine. Those look pretty good, huh? Would you eat those? You know you would. Sean, you're welcome to come grab all this stuff. Save that plate for my tart when I get done. So this is a quick variety of apple tart. So I think what's important about this is that we get kind of caught up in doing everything so pure and so crazy from scratch. And sometimes there's shortcuts that you can take that make a lot of sense. And so what I'm going to make here is a quick, you can have all this stuff, Sean, right there. I'm going to keep the lemon. I'm going to make a quick caramel. That's just sugar into my pan. And you're going to go like, really? And I'm going to go, yeah, as a matter of fact, really. All right, while the sugar is getting ready to caramelize, I'm going to take my apples. This is how I core and make an apple, so. You know, it really depends on what you want top to look like. I'm not in any sort of beauty mode here. So I'm going to make some wedges. And I just want to look at my apples and think, is that going to fill the bottom of my pan or not, right? That's essentially what I'm trying to do here. And I know the recipe that I sent you is a little bit different than this, but I'm making a quick apple tart. You can see I'm not stirring this with anything. I'm just using the pan itself. And you don't need to stir it. Just let it be. Just let it brown. It's on high heat. You know, I'm so thrilled to be here and doing this. I can't tell you, we've been part of the movie The Breach, the movie The Wild. We've helped the executive produce them so that we could get them produced and get them out there in front of the public, in front of the world. I've served so many salmon in my career. I feel like I owe the fish this opportunity to give it a chance to thrive. And I don't mean that in any sort of like, you know exactly how I mean it. It's just like, every one of us has to do our part to make this thing happen. And I'm just hoping that we've gotten enough ears on this project right now and this problem that some of the people that can make a big difference in Washington are listening and are starting to understand that this isn't something that you get a second chance at, right? You put that mine in there, there's no second chances. You create those roads to get to the mine, that's as bad as mostly the mine itself. It's just taking the habitat to create the roads to get there. Okay, look at my pan right now. You can see all those lumps pretty much gone. I've got a nice golden sugar. The darker I take this, the more bitter it's going to be. So I'm going to throw a little butter in there, and I'm going to throw my apples in there. And basically, I'm making carameled apples. Now, this is dangerous stuff, right? That caramel will burn you to the bone. So just be careful. Don't be flipping it around like I just did if you're not comfortable with that. And I like my apples to be a little bit firm when they come out, so I'm going to cook them a little bit less. You know, recipes are often made for the general common denominator. And that's just something that I'm going to work around. Okay, truth be told, I went and I bought puff pastry at the grocery store. as Tom said, we don't really have restaurants so much anymore. So all my bakers are pretty much gone. And so we're making some things work that we normally wouldn't do. So I just bought this puff pastry. There's a brand called Dufour, which I think it does a very nice job. And I'm literally going to put it on top of my apples like this. And I'm just going to make a couple of slices in it so that the steam can come out the center. And this is going to go into my oven to bake. And what you're going to end up with, uh-oh. That got a little dark, didn't it? What you're going to end up with is just apple tart. Now, obviously, that's darker than you want it to be. But at the end of the day, I'm going to put this like this. And you have to be careful here because we don't want to get that sticky syrup on you. Okay? And then we're just going to come out like that. Now, that was puff pastry. I could have trimmed off a little bit of that pastry, but at the end of the day, this is what we're looking for, right? Look how gorgeous that apple tart is. It is just one of those things that it was so simple because I took a shortcut with the puff pastry. So this becomes a 30-minute tart instead of a 3 or 4 hour tart. And then we're just going to, when you serve a slice, just put a little whipped cream on it. And this will just melt right over top of this hot tart. And there, my friends, is the finish to a fine Alaska red salmon dinner, Bristol Bay sockeye. We have our lunch version with the sliders. We have our dinner version or bowl version with that. And that is a lovely way to spend your day. So once again, I appreciate the award. I appreciate all of the efforts that the Native Corporation is doing up there to save this fantastic Bristol Bay sockeye run, the last great sockeye run left on Earth. Now you have to do your part, right? You have to get out, get vocal, call your congressman, do all that work. It's super important. I'm going to welcome to the show Stefan Lessard. He is going to tell us about why he wants to be involved in this project. And looking forward to hearing from you. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Tom.
This is from the Dave Matthews Band. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Seattle. Dave lives there.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I'm fairly new to the fight for Bristol Bay, and I apologize. I had a dentist appointment about 2 hours ago. I still can't feel the side of my face, and I've been
try some of this.
I know. I've been watching you cook. I haven't eaten much today. I'm so hungry. It's amazing. So anyway, if I start drooling, let me know.
All right.
But, I'm an advocate for clean water, oceans, native waters, and fishing rights and sustainability, native land management rights, and also sustainability with your land. And so everything about Pebble Mine to me seems wrong. I love to fish. I have some friends who are photographers who love to go up in Bristol Bay and photograph up there. And I love salmon. I mean, that's what we're talking about this week. So I'm a big fan. I love cooking it. My preferred way is actually I grill it. I just put a little bit of salt, pepper, and cumin on the flesh side. And then I grill the flesh side pretty hot, sear it, and then turn it over. And kind of like you did, I turn the grill down to low, and I let the rest of the salmon cook. I know some people like the salmon medium rare, medium-ish. I'm a little more medium well, actually. And I loved I also love smoked salmon. It's really is a special thing. So yeah. So
well, I hear Stefan. I hear that you have some cooking background, so people should be listening to you right now.
Yeah. I started off and playing bass when I was 15, but before that, I was actually working at my mom's. She was a waitress at this restaurant in Charlottesville, Virginia called Ivy Inn, and I started dishwashing there. And I loved cooking though my whole life since I was 5. I got my first cookbook at 5, and So then I started working there, and I quickly went from dishwasher to prepping, and then soon I was actually helping line cook. I was the second chef. When I was 18, the band was starting to do really well, and I was at home for a while, and I worked in the restaurant for a while, but then that was it. I was done.
Well, I would imagine that if I were to come to your house, that your salmon would be tastier than any of your neighbors. I always say to my students here at the class at the Hot Stove is like, the only goal here at the end of the day is when you leave, that you're a better cook than your neighbors. You have bragging rights over your neighbors. So there you go. And that you're a smarter shopper.
Yes, a smart shopper is good. And we have our salmon sent down from Alaska. Straight from the boat. My wife has a great company, and I'm blanking on the name, but we don't like to eat any farm salmon. And a lot of it has to do with our health, but it's also the health of the planet. And I think that when humans start to realize that when they're taking care of their own bodies, they're also taking care of the planet, the two things is very connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty well known for my coconut. I'm pretty well known for my coconut cream pie around here, and they always say, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And I hate coconut. And I say to them, "You hate coconut because you've been getting it at Denny's, the pie, or you've been getting it somewhere where it's like your coconut tastes like Coppertone suntan lotion, right?" So the reason you love this, and the reason why it works with your body, is that it's natural ingredients. It's the real deal, and it's the same with our fish. Is why. Farm salmon has such a distaste for me. As you taste the chemicals in the fish, you taste the flabbiness of the fish. It is just something that your body says, no, I don't want this. And the wild fish is just energetic in its own way. So,
yeah. Well, have you been up to Bristol Bay?
I have, although the last time I got fogged out. We had 3 tries in a row with Alaska Airlines, dipped down 3 times in a row in Dillingham, and had to head back to Anchorage. So couldn't get in.
Yeah, it's a goal of mine to get up there. I'd like to try and catch my own salmon for dinner one night.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being passionate about Bristol Bay and lending your voice and the band's voice to what such an important project.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here, and I'm happy to help any way I can in the future.
All right. That's Stefan Lessard from the Dave Matthews Band. Remember, if you want more information, you can go to the Bristol Bay Native Corporation website. You'll find out more. And if you want more information from me, my first suggestion is go online, look up The Wild, look up The Breach. Watch these movies, get educated. It doesn't do any good just to sign a letter to your congressperson just to put your name on it. It really will do much more good if you educate yourself about Bristol Bay, about the conversation, about the argument for and against, so that when you do have conversations with people, you have reasonable, thoughtful conversations and not just, this is super cool. I'm going to sign my name to this. I like the movie. No, educate yourself and be part of the solution. It's super important. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Love to all. Love to our salmon. And thanks for the beautiful award.
Diu Claire Rangelo